So today I wanted to come on and tell you guys about what some historians are calling the first Thanksgiving. And the reason why I say some historians are calling it this is because we celebrate Thanksgiving in America for an event that happened in Plymouth between the Pilgrims and the natives in 1621. Well, that was another event that happened 23 years earlier near present-day El Paso, Texas. And this is the event that some historians are now calling the first Thanksgiving. On April 30th, 1598, Don Juan de Oñate and the members of his expedition had a Thanksgiving with the natives of the land, who were called the Mansos. So Juan de Oñate is the famous conquistador who settled New Mexico, the first one to colonize New Mexico. Okay, so Oñate's father was the one who discovered and developed the rich silver mines in Zacatecas, Mexico. Oñate was rich, owning mines himself. He was loyal to the King of Spain. He served him loyally, but he was more ambitious than that. He wanted to be a famous conquistador. He wanted to mark out the land in the north. He wanted to be the one who settled it, the one who colonized it. He wanted to make a name for himself. He wanted to lead an important expedition into unexplored lands. He wanted to be a famous conquistador like Cortez. So for his loyalty to the king, he was granted land to the north in the Rio Grande Valley, and he was granted this land by the Viceroy of New Spain. So funding his own expedition, Oñate got together about 500 Spaniards, including soldiers, plus their wives and children, their families, so that way they could colonize when they went north, and about 700 livestock. And then he went north. But before they left, in 1597, he sent his nephew, Vicente de Zaldivar, to find another trail besides the original trail that was taken from where he was at, Santa Barbara in southern Chihuahua, to modern-day El Paso, Texas. There was already a route. He wanted to find a new one. So he sent Vicente de Zaldivar to find a new one. Now Vicente de Zaldivar was Oñate's nephew, and he's credited with the slaughter at Acoma. He's the one that did that. So Oñate did give the orders, but Vicente is the one that carried it out. Fun fact. So anyways, Aldivar went north and he found a new trail. But finding this trail, he went through many hardships. They said that he was held captive by natives and all kinds of shit. But he did find a new trail, and he came back and he reported it to Oñate. And so they left using that trail. Another fun fact is the trail that Zaldivar blazed has become the route of the modern highway from Chihuahua to El Paso. So if you're driving from Mexico to El Paso, from Juarez to El Paso, and you're going on the highway on that usual route, that's the route that Zaldivar blazed for Oñate originally. So in March 1598, Juan de Oñate departed on his expedition with 500 people and 7,000 livestock. It was a 50-day march from Santa Barbara to modern El Paso. The first 7 days, it rained severely on them for 7 days straight. So they had to struggle and struggle through 7 days of pure rain. And then that was followed by some dry, hot, and humid weather. So they were suffering under the sun. Once it rained and it gave them a little bit of a reprieve, but then they were back to the hot sun, struggling, trying to make it to the Rio Grande. On their last 5 days, they ran out of food and water completely. The men, women, and children had to seek scarce fruit and other vegetation, scarce vegetation, that the desert had to provide just so they could eat. They had no water, period. They couldn't get water. There's nothing they could help for that. They couldn't get water, period. So for the last 5 days, starvation and thirst, they were suffering, and a lot of them were starting to go crazy, it was said. Then they reached the Rio Grande, and they were so excited that they rushed to it to drink, splash water on their faces. 2 of the horses, it said, drank so much water their stomachs burst. 2 horses rushed so fast into it that they went into the river, and the current took them away, and they died. So Gaspar de Viagra, who traveled with Oñate and wrote a book about his expedition, wrote this about that. He wrote, "The gaunt horses approached the rolling stream and plunged headlong into it. 2 of them drank so much that they burst their sides and died. 2 others, blinded by their raving thirst, plunged so far into the stream that they were caught in its swift current and drowned. Our men threw themselves into the water and drank as though the entire river did not carry enough to quench their terrible thirst. Then, satisfied, they threw themselves upon the cool sands like foul wretches stretched upon some tavern floor in a drunken orgy, deformed and swollen and more like toads than men." But they got to the Rio Grande River, then they rested, they recuperated. Then Oñate gave orders for a day of Thanksgiving. He was thankful because they came so close to death in the desert, but they survived it. So he ordered a day of Thanksgiving for the survival of the expedition. He also invited the local natives of the land, who were a tribe called the Mansos. So together, they ate, they feasted, they played games. It was said that the Spanish brought the game from hunting, and the natives brought the fish. And together they had a big Thanksgiving. They gave thanks for their survival and said a prayer to end the severe drought that they were in. Mass was also said by the Franciscan missionaries who were traveling with Oñate. And I got a quote that was written by one of the members of the expedition. I'm going to read it for you. He said, quote, "We built a great bonfire and roasted the meat and fish, and then we all sat down to a repast of the like which we had never enjoyed before. We were happy that our trials were over, as happy as were the passengers in the ark when they saw the dove returning with the olive branch in his beak, bringing tidings that the deluge had subsided." Then after all this was said and done, Oñate got up and read what is called La Toma, or the taking. And this is a declaration which was declaring the land to Spain. He declared the land to the King of Spain, who was Philip II. And then after this celebration, the Oñate expedition continued north and then settled New Mexico. And that's the story of what some historians are calling the first Thanksgiving. I'm going to read a quote here. As one historian noted, when Jamestown and Plymouth were established early in the 17th century, they were English attempts to gain a foothold in the New World, but Santa Fe was one of the hundreds of towns the Spanish already had established in the New World. So that's why this is considered the first Thanksgiving. Anyway, I hope you learned something new. This is Tragedy. Thank you for watching. I'm out.